Bandito's Tux here with the first Descendant, and Gley's kit just got a serious buff, and it's a whole lot more fun than it used to be. No more just slogging along, pointing and shooting. You're now able to use more of your kit and even leverage your allies to snap your fingers and clear the entire field. One of the fastest, if not the fastest, time to kill on a skill build. But the buff is so incredible, she's still a heavy-handed weapon platform without hardly making any sacrifices to her weapon damage, making this buff crazy for her, and she's going to get even stronger after April 17th. I'm going to give you an insight on what you can do to get more out of her with that upcoming patch. An insane buff. Let's do this.
Wait, did we just become best friends? So nice to meet you. I think you're cool.
Let's look at the juice. So they buffed a lot of the Descendants in the last patch, but Gley got a big one to Explosive Life. This is crazy. There's actually two buffs here, but one is Explosive Life. The base damage was 370, and they pushed that to 911, but you're always in Frenzy, so that's what we're really looking at. And so it goes from 600 to 1,602%. That's more than double, folks. And it's enough to use her on the most difficult content, either solo or in group, and slap mobs with a flick of her wrist. So as far as time to kill with skills, I think she's one of the best in the game. Although Inez is strong and Freyna are strong, there's usually a couple of ticks or a couple of strikes that goes into many of those kills, or the damage works its way through the crowd. But with her, she literally flicks her wrist and everybody just falls over. It's instant kill. Okay, here's the other part. They buffed her thirst. So life sphere generation condition has changed. So when Gley defeats an enemy you used to get the life spheres at a % chance, now when Gley or an ally defeats an enemy, you have a chance at earning those life spheres. So they added a limit of 10 to the number of spheres that can be generated. You don't even have to do anything. You can just walk around, wait for Inez and Freyna to kill people, and then from there, just fucking take over. Okay, let's look at her kit. So for mobbing, I'm relying on the Malevolent, and then I'm running the Last Dagger for basically boss kills. And then for the final weapon, go with whatever, depending on your content. You could put a shotgun here or the Volsha beam rifle. The reason why I wanted to point this out here real quick with the weapons is that one of the things that's really unique and that's made her extremely strong is a synergy that's happening with the Malevolent saw blades that are going around bouncing off different enemies, and the life sphere generation and the explosive life buff. That's making your damage go a long ways. What's really cool is that you don't have to continuously lay down fire because the saw blades are out there bouncing off targets. So the max bounces are 5 times. And on top of that, the inversion reinforcement has something called evolutionary cutting mechanism. So when you use a Malevolent, it's going to grant you an additional number of cogs created on hit plus 2. More blades, more bounces. What's happening is those blades are going out striking enemies, killing them, dropping spheres. And with all of that happening, you can strike with your explosive life or blow up those spheres, those blood spheres, while the saw blades are still out there. The cogs will seek the next spawn after you wipe everybody out with your explosive life. So you're basically chasing your saw blades with explosive life, and you want to do that in rapid succession because you can only have 10 life spheres at a time so that you can clear the entire checkpoint with a single mag. It means I don't have to rely on increased sensory, and that increased sensory becomes an option, which I do use from time to time. Thus, it increases Gley's mobility significantly, because when you're using her increased sensory, she becomes dramatically slow. She loses 50% running, sprint, and movement speed. It's gross. With good uptime, you can only use your explosive life and stop relying on all your weapon. Or if you feel like chillaxing, you can do that too. But I wanted to make a build that still had really strong weapon damage because of what's coming next. And that is the rebalance of the Void Erosion Purge. They're making it so that skills will work in there. They did mention several times that to clear it efficiently, you still want to be using your weapon. So the chance to create a life sphere is slightly increased, detonates all nearby life spheres to deal damage instead of absorbing HP, and then recovers power of life based on the number of life spheres exploded. So you do have to earn your first very initial set of explosive life. You need about 3 bars on her custom resource bar down below. Once you earn that, you don't ever have to really worry about it again. So you're blowing up orbs. That's the name of the game. Remember, because of the change to thirst, there can only be 10 life spheres that can be generated at one time. but it is a perpetual process. So if you use one more can be created. If you use all 10 more can be created. And you're striking and killing so many enemies, you constantly have orbs out there. This is not something you have to worry about, and your allies are creating them for you. And this is extremely helpful because it allows you to keep up with even the fastest and strongest descendants, like Fiesta, for example, because you have a 300% range, but you can ignite from even further distances. If there are orbs on the ground, you control the battlefield, and they can't help it because when they kill, they're dropping orbs, but there can only be 10 at a time, so you want to frequently use them. So you want to get your cooldown low, but it doesn't need to be excessive. I actually found around 2 seconds was a very good place to be, but because of some other changes I ended up making on the build, I ended up picking up a little bit more cooldown. You definitely want to play into range on this. She's got a 300% range. So there's the base damage. We'll just skip over that because you're doing this when you're frenzied. So damage is going to be skill power by 1600, but for this build I'm at 1567. So losing a little bit of skill power modifier isn't going to hurt her because she's so strong. If you have the option, try to load up on skill power versus skill power modifier as much as you can. So frenzy, I'm not going to go over this in too detail, but basically you're going to turn this on and you're going to leave it on throughout the entire dungeon, and this is going to give you additional firearm attack increase of 15%. We like that. Okay, let's look at increased sensory. So the cooldown is 7.4 seconds with a duration of 5 seconds. You can push up the duration, and I was playing like that for a while, but in the end, I decided to abandon it. I didn't want to be an increased sensory for mobbing too much because of her decrease in speed. You don't need to have that crazy high sustained damage level that she can do. She's so strong, and with her skills now in play, 5 seconds seems to be enough. All I had to do was balance in my reload time and my mag size so that I can clear an entire checkpoint with a single mag, or close to it. 5 seconds seems to be enough to kill any dungeon boss, so we're good to go. Okay, here's a look at the mods. For the most part, we are playing into range and damage. Those are the big things here. So let me just get this easy one out of the way. So I am taking shot focus because I want her weapons to be extremely strong. So I'm running skill expansion and maximize range, and that basically puts you at the cap. Be sure to stick around to the end because there will be a part 2 of this updated build. On the 17th, they're dropping some new gear that is going to shift this build. I'll give you some tips on some of that stuff. Plus, the inversion reinforcement is going to give us more range, and we're also getting some from the arcade tuning. So we are over-tuned on range here, don't have good options on expansion. So we're running nimble fingers and MP conversion, cost of max MP. She doesn't use MP, which allows me to use stim accelerant and get max HP at 234 at a cost of max MP of 15%. And the rest of the mods are basically going into damage. So we're taking non-attribute amplification at a cost of crit damage, but we're not using that. And then focus on non-attribute, which is giving us more skill power, a little bit of cooldown. Focus on dimension is a flexible slot. Before, what I had there was extension to give more duration to my skills, specifically increased sensory. Because I'm not using increased sensory as much as I thought I would initially, I don't need to do that. But if you decide to take this into the purge, then you might want to put that one back on. And then finally, dangerous ambush, because you're killing a lot of these guys without them targeting you. As soon as they spawn, you snap your fingers and they die. So I wanted that skill to be really strong and take out a lot of those really tanky enemies in Sigma Sector or other missions. So I decided to go with Slayer, but after the 17th patch, this might change. Remember, she doesn't rely on MP, so just make sure you have your HP things there. And this is giving us 26% more damage. The reactor, you do want damage here. I went with skill cooldown and dimension here. If I had one that had non-attribute skill power, I'd probably put that one on, so double skill power there. Quick look at the inversion reinforcement. So I'm picking up extra cogs because I'm using the Malevolent. More HP, so she is tankier than she seems. We're using the chill focused rounds because that's what I have set up on my Malevolent. So right now our HP is at 12,000, but she does get tankier once we start getting some kills under her belt. Let's look at the arcade tuning. I have it basically set up for weapon damage, mostly the modifiers, and then skill damage. And that's going to decrease some skill costs and give us a little bit of range. Again, we're over the cap on our range, but after the 17th, we will utilize these 3 nodes better. And then we're going for the skill power. And then I come down here for a quick boost in HP. This is definitely worth it. And then otherwise, I'm picking up more weapon damage. I take the weak point damage here. Then I go up to get better aim shot accuracy and then more skill damage. And then we're taking the affinity damage. This is going to be really helpful. So I do have a little bit of gameplay footage of this build working in the Purge right now. And I wanted to do this to show you that we still have the optimal damage for level 30 Purge as it sits right now. On April 17th, they are rebalancing the Purge so that skills can participate more. So I don't recommend taking this in there before the 17th. Earlier, I said there are going to be some considerable buffs via new gear to Gley once the April 17th patch hits. So let's walk through that real quick. So one of the things that we're getting is the Enlightened Mage component set. So that's going to give us 6% more skill power, already helping, but there's a decrease in firearm attack when using a non-attribute skill. And then that's going to grant stacks of truth up to 3 stacks at a 5-second duration. So at 3 stacks, look at here, non-attribute skill power is 84%. So you're getting 6% skill power and then 84% skill power. Now, obviously the cost is going to be to your firearm attack. Now, what I don't know is if that's going to be a cost of 12% firearm attack per stack, or if that's just a one-time cost of firearm attack, which is what I think it's going to be. But either way, Enlightened Mage is going to be really good for this build, especially if you want to focus in on her explosive life more than her weapon usage. And you could absolutely do that. The other one worth trying is going to be Shell Crusher. This is going to give you a 5% fire rate. And so that's just pure DPS right there. We like that. And it's also going to give you some additional damage to anti-RK shields, similar to what the Volsha does. And this one's going to be a big deal, I think, for a lot of Descendants. Gley's build heavily relies on range. 35% range is really helpful. And with that, you might be able to get rid of your maximized range. So let me just walk us through this exercise. We're over the max, and we're considerably over the max. Let's get under the max now. Amplification control, but that's a waste because although the number's perfect at 50%, she doesn't have any shields. So you have Frugal Mindset that's got a skill cost at less than 8.5%, but 22% range, which isn't very good. I can't use it right now. But with that 35%, I can. So if we add this here, now my total range is at 154%, 100% from skill expansion, or 92, and then that 22%. And then RK tuning is bringing in 35%. So that's how we get there, but there's more that's not showing here. Quantum Domain from Inversion Reinforcement picks up another basically 15%. If we run the skill effect range, that gets us right to 200%. And what we gained is our damage back because maximum range was taking away some of that skill power modifier. And then we also win a decrease in skill cost. Except Gley doesn't really care about skill cost. When you detonate those life spheres, she fills back up really easily. So in my opinion, it would be better to fall just under the range cap. And this would put us around 185%, or a total of 285%. And that opens up some interesting options like more damage. We have that option here. Or if that doesn't float your boat, you can take on more HP and get even tankier. The point is, we're going to have more options with just the slightest tweak of our build. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm Tuxedo Bandido, and if you found this video helpful, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on the good stuff I have coming for you. And if you like content like this, be sure to check out the video I have recommended for you right here. If you have anything you would like me to cover, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thank you to all the channel members and donors who make things possible. Tux Nation wouldn't be the same without you.
When you buy or download anything for the first Descendant, be sure to use Tux's creator code to support the channel. Easy peasy.
Wait, did we just become best friends?